Hello and welcome to My Woolly PhD. My name's Liz Scuff and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm currently learning and making in my anthropology PhD all about wool. You can find a brief overview of the research project in the introductory video. I don't go through it every week. This is just what has been frying my noodle this week, and sometimes it's like a big kind of revelatory week and sometimes it's like, oh, this was interesting. This is one of those ones where I think like my world was turned upside down a little bit by Daniel Miller. Thank you very much, Daniel. I mentioned some of his work last week very briefly. He's an anthropologist who has a focus on stuff or things, materiality in culture. So this week from Miller I learnt the term depth ontology, which for my next magic trick I will try and explain. So I have been trying to get my head around the concept of ontology for several years now. It's one of those terms that you can read a definition and go, oh, okay, sure. But like, it's another thing to really feel like I understand it and can use it appropriately. And I just don't think I'm there yet with the real feeling of the idea. So if these explanations don't quite make sense to you either, you're in good company, don't stress. I mean, maybe it's not that difficult for other people. I think I'm just I struggle with really abstract terms. And if I can't kind of see really clear examples or applications in a kind of more practical, pragmatic way, I kind of grapple for a really long time with abstractions. But maybe it is one of those terms that maybe lots of people find difficult. So who knows? Anyway, that's okay. Diversity is great. So a brief search on the internet will tell us that ontology is the philosophical study of being. Hey, sure. Thanks for that, internet. It's knowledge seeking about the nature of beingness. The studying of what exists and the nature of that existence. So it's very existential, very philosophical, it's clear as mud. But being and beingness, existence, the nature of existence, that's what it is. Maybe, as I explained depth ontology, it will make a little more sense too, right? So I don't have Miller's book on me and I couldn't access an online version, so I'm going to be like, not even radically paraphrasing. I'm just going to be like, here's what I remember, how I think he described it. Anyway, but I think he describes depth ontology as this idea that human identity is like an onion, right? It's layered. There are like superficial layers of identity and beingness on the surface, which would start with our clothes and adornments, but that our truer selves are like deeper, like the deep self, my deepest self kind of phrases, right? But that deeper self is not really that apparent on the surface, right? You peel back all these layers to find the deepest, like nub of the person kind of thing, or the soul or the self or something lies deep within. He says, if you go deep within a person, you're just going to find blood and bones. It's actually quite entertaining. I wish I had that with me. Maybe I'll share him again in another video. But this is what tipped my world upside down, right? I had never realized that this was just an idea that not all cultures shared. It has been such a part of my cultural norm that I didn't realize I was running it as a universal truth about all people, right? That this was one of those things that that's how all humans were. It turns out it's not. It's an idea that some cultures have about reality. So it's an ontological perspective, right? But not all cultures operate with this idea of layered identity. I absolutely still cannot get my head around this, right? Like, I don't know if I've said it here before, but my day job, I'm a psychotherapist. Like, it's all about like layers and depth of identity. So it's just like, whoa. Anyway, the next bit, I'm going to preface this by just reminding us all that anthropological knowledge is interpretive, right? So anthropology used to operate under this delusion that anthropologists were reporting facts about other cultures. And over time, it's become a lot more reflexive, where we understand that it's all interpretive, it's all selective, it's co-created, it's not objectively factual, right? And that doesn't mean anthropologists don't try to be accurate in their representations of cultures. It's just that the anthropologists themselves is one of the filters in which the narrative and the knowledge comes through, right? I say all this because I'm going to name one of the cultures that Miller studied. So just to remind us all that this is Miller's interpretation of that culture, actually, right? So Miller conducted research in Trinidad and found that this concept of depth ontology, where the identity is sort of layered, doesn't really operate here. He says that people in Trinidad pride themselves in expressing their full selves, who they are, who they're becoming, in their outward appearance, their clothes, their hairstyle, their makeup, how they walk, how they interact, etc. So those that keep something kind of hidden about themselves inside are kind of like not trustworthy. Like it's a weird thing to do. You know, you put it all out or there is no out. Anyway, I still can't quite get my head around it, but they put a lot of time and effort and money into showing each other who they are. And I'm sure this way of being has some challenges, right? But it also sounds really lovely. I don't know, I just think in the West there's so much, in Western culture, so much kind of hiding of who one is. And this does bring up things about public-private discourse too, right? But that's a whole nother... Anyway, I've never really gotten dressed in the morning thinking about showing the world who I fully am. And it's a very playful provocation, actually, to sort of think about. If I was going to put the effort into my appearance, even just one day in my whole life, right, that showed everybody who I really was, like there was nothing hidden, what would that look like? Right. Obviously, these things are culturally constrained or directed to, right, about what people show. That's not... Anyway, okay. It's obviously one of those things that just is not fully... Well, every week, everything I bring is not fully cooked. Or actually, I'm just realising I'm using that term in a way that people of my generation would use that term. Younger generations use the term fully cooked or cooked really differently. Not fully formed. So I've still got lots of excitement and lots of different ideas and like implications for this concept going on. So it's a bit of a ramble. Okay, but if I come back to, I did have some notes. Oh yeah, it made me think about this kind of Western cultural, the capsule wardrobe culture too, right? That's mostly quite conservative. It is cloaking of identity. And it's got a big focus on efficiency. And I think that must be one of the costs of this way of being in Trinidad, is that it's a lot of time that is spent dressing to share one's full awesomeness, right? Whereas in the West, a lot of the narrative or a lot of the thing is, right, how to be efficient at getting dressed. It has to be stylish, but it had we can employ people to help us with that, right? Stylists and people who help you work out your capsule wardrobe and your colours and your whatever. I think all this is great, but it's really, as a cultural process, fascinating, right? So there's an efficiency drive in our culture of getting dressed that not all cultures have, obviously. So yeah, it makes me wonder, like, how do you get dressed in the morning? Who dresses you? What do you dress for? What are the considerations, the constraints? Like I often get dressed just based on a feeling, like what do I feel like wearing, or what's one item of clothing that kind of grabs my attention today. The rest of the outfit just kind of falls around that, right? But I tend to not like to spend a lot of time on it. Anyway, Miller also describes how Trinidadians also don't share the same value of being natural, right? So this is so gorgeous. I love this. In Western culture, of course, there's a narrative of like not wearing makeup or changing your appearance much, that being natural is somehow better, right? And Miller says that in Trinidad, there is no value in this because there's no effort, right? Just getting around in how you were born is not something to be proud of. It's like lazy. It's being a slacker. And you should put effort and time and money into your appearance to make yourself the best you can be, and that's what's prized. And it was this thing about being the best you could be that I just thought, that's really cool. Actually, I really like that. I've never really thought about adornment like this. I mean, I'm a big fan of adornment and investing in and an appreciation of beauty, right? But I never really thought about this, putting the effort in to be the best you could be in terms of your appearance. And of course, this has a narrative. It's not that it's not in the West, it is hugely, right? And it can become very problematic in some ways. I'm not sort of saying it's not without issue. It's just not how I'd kind of thought about appearance. Yeah, this was cool. It made me think, like I go in and out of phases of wearing or not wearing makeup, for example. And I mostly don't wear it because I can't be asked. I do think it's like a gendered sort of money time tax as well, but honestly it's really it's just about effort. But this has put a new angle on the issue, and I'm going to have to rethink my position on this. So who knows, I might go into another phase of makeup wearing for a while and then I'll get jack of it because of how time consuming it is. Yeah. Do you wear makeup? When do you wear makeup? It's really interesting to me because I also think like makeup there's cultural taboos about who is allowed to wear makeup. Where are you allowed to wear it? Like gender's one example, right? Men are not allowed to wear makeup. Other social groups are not allowed or less allowed. And there are super complex rules for women, particularly around the kind of profession as to like when and how they can or can't wear makeup in those work contexts. I think a lot of anthropologists don't wear makeup very often. I have a very small sample set to draw from, but I don't know. I love the ones who are kind of like seem to be. Anyway, okay. There's of course many other ways to put effort into appearance other than wearing makeup, such as making your own clothes, which I think most people watching here are engaged in. So yay for that effort. Anyway, it's this idea of identity, our beingness, not necessarily layered, that has been like my big learning this week. And I think it's going to have some big ongoing implications for me, at least personally, if not in my project. So it's really, I don't know, it's really cool, but yet to be understood as to how cool. Anyway, on to what I have been making. Well, if you watched last week's video, you will be all over the twists and turns in the life of this beautiful, I don't think it's so, maybe that's got it, catching the light. This beautiful Corriedale, fleece from Cloverleaf Corriedale stud. It's like I smell it every week, so sheepy. So last week I was just about to frog the beginnings of a sweater that I was knitting with it with a single strand. And I think it's a light fingering that I made. I'm kind of impressed but disappointed because I wanted something really big and squishy. Anyway, so the emerging fabric was too thin. It was not what I thought we were going to be making together. I thought we were going to make something really squishy and super warm. So I switched tack, pulled it all out, and now I'm holding it double and making a vest, which of course it's a vest, can't you tell? I love these stages of knitting where it's just like, what is that? It's a balaclava. Anyway, it's a vest. And I mean, the thing that maybe is more evident is that, maybe it's not, that the fabric is like super thick. So I'm knitting this double on 3.5s, 3.5 millimeter. Anyway, it's super thick and squishy, and it's going to be like the warmest vest ever. Hopefully it's going to fit. I feel like it's looking like it's a bit small, but we'll see. And maybe a bit of assertive blocking will help. But I'm knitting the, this is the Norwind. It's got cables down the side there, which I am not going to do. Again, effort. But I picked this one because I'm just trying to find the right neckline. in the vest using the right weight yarn was actually a challenge, and just the sort of shape of the body. Anyway, this is by Daniela Muehlbauer. Probably getting that wrong, Daniela, sorry, but yeah, so I think I'm enjoying it. The pattern's really good and I'm liking the fabric it's making. So, and I have had a lot of time as a passenger in cars this week, so that's how I have got so much done since last week's video. That's been great. I have not really been working on anything else, except I did do a repair. I don't love, some people really love doing repairs on things. I don't really like doing repairs. Like, I hold on to beloved items of clothing forever, but I'm not a mad keen repairer. Anyway, I did a repair. I redid a cuff, so a bit of it had been breaking. So I pulled the cuff off, snipped it back, sewed it back on. I'm really pleased. It's my first cuff repair. It's just like this linen shirt, but this is my most favorite item of clothing I own. I got it from an op shop and I'll wear it anywhere I can. Yeah, so I was very motivated to repair that one. Yeah, anyway, that's it this week. What are we up to? Week 14. That's exciting. Yeah, I guess I will see you next week. Thanks for watching, and as always, I would love any thoughts, comments, contributions to this week's thinking. I'm getting so much out of the comments. I'm learning a lot. It's really, yeah, it's a really great collaboration. Thanks for joining in. See you next week. Bye.